You join us here today in a small village in the northeast of Scotland called New Pitsligo. Or if you live local, it's Pitsligo. Or indeed, if you're on this side of the bridge, it's Kiak. The village was founded in 1787 by Sir William Forbes, and he enticed settlers here, offering them 2 acres of land and free peat for their fire. In the 1900s, the village boasted over 30 shops, including 4 butchers, 3 pubs, 2 blacksmiths, 2 schools, and there was also 5 churches. One of the biggest industries surrounding the village was the granite quarries. At one point, they were near reaching double figures. One of the stone masons that worked in the quarries was my grandfather, who was born in this house just ahead of us, number 34 Low Street, on the 19th of September 1920. My father was also born in this house on the 12th of May 1947, and I'm delighted to say that he'll be joining us later today to tell us a bit more about the village, about the quarries, and indeed our family. My granddad left school at the age of 14 and for 2 years was a farmhand at 2 local farms. At the age of 16, he then began his apprenticeship in Shewan's Quarry at the south side of the village, which was where my great-grandfather had also worked. At the time, when my grandfather began his apprenticeship, he earned 10 shillings a week, which equates to about 50 pence in modern day money. Today, we are going to follow in the footsteps of these gallant pioneers, and we are going to head over to Ballymoon Quarry to meet Mike Bradley, who's going to tell us a bit more. But before we do that, we're going to stop off at the church in the High Street, where my dad's going to tell you a bit about it.
Hello, my name's Mitch Hood, originally from the village of New Pitsligo in Aberdeenshire, famous for its craftsmen stonemasons. We just have an example here. We're outside the public hall, and an example of the carvings above the hall. And then we cross the road. The building there is a Episcopal church, known as the chapel church by local folk. And if you just look at the fantastic stonework, it is just something else. There's many listed buildings in the village because of the granite builders. There was 9 of my forefathers stonemasons, including a brother and my father, grandfather, and so on. It was a big thing in the village of New Pitsligo. At one time, it included, there was 26 journeymen and also 12 apprentices, plus about another 100 of the quarrymen themselves. So you can understand the size of the village. At its peak, it was around the year 1900, and it was said that there wasn't a household in the village that didn't have a quarryman or a mason. It was such a big, I can't stress the point anymore, it was such a big occupation in the village. And they were famed not only in the village but the surrounding area, where they helped to build many houses and libraries, etc.
Here we are in New Pitsligo, Scotland. And for any international listeners here, we are on the Upper East Side. We're welcoming today a group who are delving into the history of this place, of which I can tell you very little about. It has a legacy which goes back to the days of the Quarrymen, which I only have fleeting information about. And these were a hardy bunch of men. And New Pitsligo was really the epicentre of quarrying in the northeast of Scotland. From the pictures I've seen and from the few quarrymen that I've met, this was a tough life, and you'd hardly know if you look about now that this actually was such a place of toil.
Well, hello, we're in New Pitsligo again, on the outskirts of the village in Quarry, which was called Balnamoon number 1. I spent a lot of years here when I was in my before my teens. I got interested in other things after that. Nevertheless, we have here a stonemason's apron belonging to my grandfather. They received, and this one here was my father's. They received one of these when they had a year of their apprenticeship in. And this one was made by a sister of my father's. My father was born in 1920, left the school at 14, and from 14 to 16, the young lads used to get a job in some of the surrounding farms. They were only allowed to start serving their apprenticeship when they were 16 years old. Another interesting fact maybe is that the last year of their work in the quarry, they got out in some of the building sites. If you go into parts of Fraserburgh, for example, it's all built with New Pitsligo stone. There's a lot of other quarries round about, 26 in total at its peak, as far as I know. Not only that, you've got a lot of Grandad, Peterhead, bottom quarries, which is still working, I think. You go into Aberdeen, Quarrymen, Rubla Quarry, of course, the great Rubla Quarry, which at one time was the deepest man-made hole in Europe. Until Kemney Quarries found this out and they weren't happy, so they took out another 20 feet, I think it was. So they would hold the record. With the result that Rubla took it down again, and as far as I know, it held the record, even today until it's full of water. So there's a lot of interesting things. They were a hard breed of men, really, and I was lucky enough to see this. You know, I thought it was coming to the end. I was able to see it, and it was a fascinating thing. I was always fascinated when they were dressing the stone, or how they could do it. A stone is similar to timber. It's got a grain in it, and if they followed that grain, they made it reasonably easy for to split the stones, although it was a very hard job.
Right, Mitchell,
Okay.
as you know, this is a puncheon.
Hey.
This is a puncheon, not that puncheon,
yeah.
but a puncheon,
Uh-huh.
as it's called. And when I was a young man dressing stones in the quarry, we used to go through at least 3 a day of
Yes.
these. And the blacksmith in the village used to take them in every day and repoint them for us. And he was very good. And these are plugs and feathers. We used to drill holes in stone and look and see which way the grain's going. And then, once we found out which way the grain was going, you would bore whatever size the stone was. Then you'd clip them together, put them in the hole, and then you take the chisel and mark down the line that you wanted the stone with grain at. And then you just chop them in the hole, and they would tighten up, and you'd listen for a couple seconds, and you would hear a click. And then you would another few chops, and then you'd hear it going. And that would let it go
Then that would be it. The stone would be open. But that wouldn't be the hammers we would use. There used to be a really thin shaft there.
Yes.
And
Just hold fire there a sec. It's just getting really loud now. Where is it? Oh, it's right above us.
I told you not to come over just now.
Hope it's not a Luftwaffe.
That's Hitler. So once you've done that, you would look and see what the stone was. And see which way the grain went again. Opposite side usually. And then you'd pick up your hammer and your punching. And then you'd start dressing. And you'd do it in lines. Scour it up and down. Scour it up and down. Don't know if anybody understands scouring, but it's just breaking through the granite, which is usually very hard. That's why the pints or the puncheons disappear quite quickly. And then that was a stone done maybe in an hour, if you were lucky. Sometimes it took me 2 hours. But some of the older gentlemen were so good at it, they could do a lot of stones in a day. And I was very happy when I did my half a dozen. And that was when I was 16 years old. And life was very, very different. Because as Mitchell will tell you, every Friday you hurt your hand. And it was always bleeding. Then that was you couldn't get out for a pint. She was too embarrassed.
Hi, I'm Michael from MGS Landscaping, and I'm here to cut a piece of granite. Now we're going to use traditional methods compared to many years ago where granite was cut with plugs and feathers. Okay. Now we're ready to go and cut the stone as deep as we can with the saw. And then what we're going to do is we're going to turn the stone upside down and then cut the remaining half of it. And this will split the granite. So now we're going to use the traditional methods, plugs and feathers. So the deed of it is, we put it in the stone here on the wee bit that we just cut, and we chap this in the plug, and it will cause the feather to come out at an angle, and it should split the stone. But it doesn't.
And it sounds like a stone.
There we go. So here we have the split granite, the rough bit here, and the smooth bit here.